السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد سيد الخلق أجمعين. اللهم ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا، اللهم ربنا ارحمنا، اللهم ربنا عافنا واعف عنا، اللهم يا ربنا بارك لنا وتقبل منا وأنت العزيز وأنت الكريم. اللهم يا ربنا أعزنا ولا تذلنا، اللهم ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا، اللهم يا ربنا اعف عنا وأنت العفو وأنت الكريم. Inshallah, today we'll continue on shedding some light on the maqasid or the purposes of revealing of the different surah in the Quran. Today, inshallah, we'll be talking about two different surah. We'll be talking about Surah Al-Anbiya, the surah number 21, and also the next one, which is the Surah Al-Hajj. Surah Al-Anbiya, as we all know, the name of it is Al-Anbiya, the surah of the prophets. The surah of the prophets, it revolves around, as well as you can tell, that it is about the prophets, but in a different concept than, like for instance, Surah Maryam. But Surah Maryam, if you notice, it is concentrating, it's focusing on the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the biggest rahmah of all is sending all these different prophets to us and messengers and on and on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about them and look at what they have done. Surah Al-Anbiya is emphasizing on an important concept with the existence of the prophets, which is the concept of qudwa, or a mentorship, or somebody to be followed, is to be taken as an example. You notice that here on the face of this earth, everybody idealizes somebody, follows a certain somebody, follows a certain trend, which is typical. We're all born, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us on the face of this earth with no knowledge whatsoever. We take our knowledge, we take our influence from the outside, and then that shapes and takes our personalities and makes us who we are. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us through the path of our lives, different, elements, different people, could be parents, could be neighbors, could be friends, could be teachers in a school, could be outside of school, could be a sheikh somewhere, whatever, that kind of we take from this person, and we always look up to these people or these characters, and for us to be like them. And today, as an example, a lot of, there's a scholar saying something beautiful. He says, do you really want to define a nation? Tell me who are their heroes or who are their idols. Who do they follow? If they follow, people who are into money and money gatherers and the rich people, you know what kind of personalities they have. If you talk about people who are following heroes who are inventors, who are scientists, you know what kind of society it is. But if the people idealize and they follow, great people of high moral values, this is a community that they are actually looking up and higher up in the ladders of greatness and, sophistication. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the surah emphasizes on this concept of the prophets and their role in our communities, what they have done in their own time as well as it is today. And subhanAllah, also as a quick mention, Surah Al-Anbiya is Surah Makkiyah, it's revealed in Mecca. And we know the Surah Mecca, there's a lot of Surah. The scholar said because the people, the kuffar, they used to argue a lot with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Continuous argument, continuous, issues, continuous things to talk about, whatever. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to reveal the surah to explain, to set back, to decipher, and on in Mecca. And most of the surah in Mecca revolves around people said 3 or 4 or 5 different subjects. You can combine them with three. You can go up to 5 different subjects. Surah Makkiyah, number one, revolves around ta'rif with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the introduction or knowing who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Talking about his oneness, talk about his attributes, his 99 names, his greatness, his generosity. Number one. Number two is to introduce his khalq, his creation, and to emphasize the point of his ni'am, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, bringing the rain down, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the health, give you the wealth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created night and day, and on and on. Number three is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks in Surah Makkiyah, He talks a lot about the prophets He has sent, and to emphasize their credibility, as they are not just an average people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen them to be setting the standards for humanity, for them to be followed, to be emulated, to be copied. Number four is, the fourth subject is that, is what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want from us? So after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about Himself, described Himself, what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want from us? To worship Him, and the type of worship we need to do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And number five is, and this is kind of revolves around it, kind of throws it back and forth, to give emphasis on the credibility of the message, credibility of Islam, the credibility of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the credibility, of course, with the rest of the messengers. So you could possibly talk about these 5 different things, as well as you can condense them down to 3, but this is basically the highlights of the subjects, what is discussed in the surah in Mecca. Makkiyah was revealed in Mecca. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Mecca, he, when he introduced the surah, when it was revealed on him, and he brought him into the ummah as an introduction. But you notice that some of these subjects, especially the most important subjects, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the message kept on going throughout the entirety of this risala, the message, 23 years, never stopped. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inserts it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, throughout the surah, from Mecca all the way to Medina, the Madaniyah, throughout. Let me give you an example of this. If you are, let's say, you're learning how to drive, and the instructor is sitting next to you, and he is giving you instructions. Number 1, do this. Number 2, that's how you do the brakes. Number 3 is that's how you drive. Number 4, but you know what the most important rule? Do not speed. Do not speed, right? So, and then he talks a little bit more. This is how you push the brakes. This is how you start the engine. By the way, do not speed. Do not speed. And then he talks a little bit more. That's how you operate the windshield wiper. This is how you stop. This is this. And you know what? Do not speed. Similarly, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always inserts these concepts. They emphasize these concepts continuously throughout. Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not worship other than Him. Do not commit shirk. Do not commit kufr. Always be straight with your ibadah. Have istiqamah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about something else. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes back again to the same subject, on and on and on like that. Surah Al-Anbiya, as we discussed, is that talks about the idols, or not the idol, the mentorship of the prophets, as for us to copy them, to emulate them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts the surah with اقترب للناس حسابهم وهم في غفلة معرضون. Their hisab, the accountability is so close to them, and they are in state of ghafla. They're completely not focused on it. They're completely not realizing of where were they at, and they are turning away from this fact. ما يأتيهم من ذكر من ربهم محدث إلا استمعوه وهم يلعبون. Every dhikr, every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said a message to remind them of their purpose, to remind them who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, to remind them to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to remind them of the prophets, they are sitting there, they're playing, they're not paying attention, they are not focusing on what they're doing, being distracted. لاهية قلوبهم, being distracted, their hearts are distracted, they're not focused on their purpose, what they're doing here on the face of this earth. And what they do is that they get together, وَأَسَرُّوا النَّجْوَى إِنْ هَٰؤُلَاءِ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا, the transgressors, they used to look at each other and say, who are these people? Who are these messengers? You know, they're nothing like people like us. They say things, I say things. You follow them, you follow me. There's no big deal about them. And the message was, قال ربي يعلم الغيب في السماوات والأرض. The message was always focused on the fact Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the knowledge of heaven and earth. He's the creator of heaven and earth, and He is the Sami' and He's the Alim, and on like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about a beautiful concept here. Is that the ayah number 17 and the ayah number 18. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَا خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا لَعِبٌ. We did not create heaven and earth and what's between them as a form of a toy and a game. You're being distracted. You are considering this as a game. I'm sending you these messages to teach you things, to let you know things, for you to be focused, to be straight on the path. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I did not create this heaven and earth as a distraction, as a toy, as a game. This is haqq, this is batil. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لو أردنا أن نتخذ لهوا. If we wanted to take this as a game, لاتخذناه من لدنا. I would have taken a game. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I would have taken a game and a toy and a distraction on my own. I'm not going to create heaven and earth the way that you're living in it, and I created you to put in it as a whole big game. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala signifies and tells us exactly what the purpose of it is. He says, بل نقذف بالحق على الباطل فيدمغه فإذا هو زاهق ولكم الويل مما تصفون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we are throwing the haqq against the batil, the right, the correct, the thabit, the fixed, against what is wrong, what is haram, what is, shar, what is evil, and what is continuously moving. We're throwing this against that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will get the haqq fixed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will destroy the batil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about these great characteristics of the prophets, starting with Ibrahim alayhi salam. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the ayah here, the ayah number 51, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ رُشْدَهُ مِنْ قَبْلُ وَكُنَّا بِهِ عَالِمِينَ. We have given Ibrahim alayhi salam his guidance, his straightness, his great moral character. وَكُنَّا بِهِ, and we were fully aware of what he was doing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when he came to his people, he says, what you guys are worshiping? They said, oh, we're worshiping some idols that our parents and grandparents and forefathers, they used to worship. They used to make i'tikaf for them. He looked at them straightforward with the message. He says, you and all the people who are following you, whatever you're doing, it is wrong. It is incomplete misguidance. Rabbukum, your Rabb is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one and only who created heaven and earth. They looked at it and says, are you playing with us? Is this a game? SubhanAllah, you notice how you bring up the games and on and on. They're playing the games, and they accuse others of playing the games. They said, are you playing game on us? Are you playing with us? He says, and he answers them back, he says, قال بل ربكم رب السماوات والأرض الذي فطرهن وأنا على ذلك لمن الشاهدين. وأنا على ذلكم من الشاهدين. He says, your Rabb is the heaven and earth. I'm not playing. This is not a game. This is serious business. And by the name of Allah, I will destroy your idols, that the one you're worshiping. And sure enough, when they went on their, meeting, he goes after their idols. He destroys all of them. He breaks them apart, and he leaves the last one with the sword, with the weapon in his hand. They came back. He said, oh, who did this to our idols? Who did this to our gods? And they said, oh, we heard about a guy, his name is Ibrahim. He's always talking about them, always, discredit them, always saying things that is not within our, very disrespectful to them. So they said, call him, let's call upon him, and let's show the people who he really is. So they called Ibrahim alayhi salam. He showed up. He says, did you do this with our gods? He says, no, not me. Ask that biggest guy with the sword in his hand. Maybe he's going to answer you. They looked at each other and say, yeah, how could they talk? Or how did this happen? But then they turn back at him and say, no. Their job is not to talk. That's not their purpose. And they're not going to be able to talk. He looked at them and he says, well, are you going to be worshiping gods that they don't even talk? They don't even do you good or bad. They cannot even defend themselves. Is this how it works? They said, harriquh, burn him. And sure enough, they gathered a huge fire. They wanted to burn him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the ayah, Number 69, قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Look, their message, this is something for you to take an example of. This is the message, and this is the messenger. This is what you do. You don't take this life as a game, as a toy. You stay steadfast with the message, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the highest reward. Not only this, when he was exiled from Iraq, the place that he was in, and he stood against his father, the kafir, against his family, against his whole nation and whole ummah, he became homeless. No home for him and no family for him. He left everybody behind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him Ishaq and granted him Yaqub, and he made them both as messengers. Allah subhanahu, if you lose something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace it for you in much, much better way. That's something for you to remember. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِهِمْ. We made them أئمة, we made them, imam, Ishaq, Yaqub, Ibrahim, we made them people to be followed. And we told them how to do the khayrat, the good deeds, and make salah and pay zakah. These are the good people to be followed. Walut, look at the next one. Lut alayhi salam, the nephew of Ibrahim alayhi salam. We have given him knowledge and given him wisdom, and we have saved them from the people who are doing the bad, evil deeds, and they were bad people. We have entered him in our rahmah and our ease. Do you want to meet? Do you want to see the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Be on the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Lut alayhi salam, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, like Dawood alayhi salam, like Sulaiman alayhi salam. Look what Dawood and Sulaiman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. The ayah, ayah number 78. يَحْكُمَانِ بِالْحَقِّ. They were rulers, they were kings and rulers. And there's, they used to rule amongst their people, and the great Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed them the straight path, showed them what to do with the greatest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Dawood alayhi salam the ability, the beautiful voice to recite the book. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had the echo of his voice from the mountains and the valleys. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Sulaiman alayhi salam the greatest power of controlling everything on earth, including the jinn, which is, we don't even see them, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the power. They used to die for him, they used to do things for him. He completely had the control of the jinn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks also about Ayyub alayhi salam. Look at Ayyub. We have tested him and he showed nothing but sabr. He was patient. He was steadfast. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him from his agony and his pain and his test. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaced everything that he has taken away from him and multiplied it multiple times over for him. With the Noon, Yunus alayhi salam, and this is the second time he's mentioned in the Quran, as we mentioned. He mentioned 3 times. This is the second time. Inshallah, third time I'll tell you the full story about Yunus alayhi salam. إِذْ ذَهَبَ مُغَاضِبًا. When he left his place, in a state of angering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he thought, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to give him the qadr, is not going to give him the control. And he called from the dhulumat, the 3 darknesses. He called upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered his dua, and he has saved him. And who else? Maryam and her son Isa alayhi salam also as well. The whole surah revolves around these people, about them, the best who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent on the face of this earth, and us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says at the end of the surah here, إِنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ وَأَنَا رَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُونَ. The whole ummah, the whole nation, the whole mankind is one ummah, one people. And I am your Rabb, worship him. Worship me, I am your Rabb. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. The surah emphasizes on the following the footsteps of the prophets, and they are nothing but prophets. They're nothing but people like us. Sometimes when we idealize somebody, when we follow somebody, we overdo that. That's our nature. We overdo things. And sometimes we give these prophets way more stature and placement than they are worthy and deserving. Like for instance, when they, some of the nations, they considered Isa alayhi salam to be God or the son of God, or some of the other nations, they thought that Uzair is the son of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and on and on and on. There's no, the Muslim way is right there in the middle, is that for us to admit their prophecy, to admit their fadl and extra upon us, but at the same time, we don't drag it beyond, we don't give them too much, we don't deify them or give them too much credit that they're not worthy of. They are still people anyway, regardless of what they have done. Surah Al-Hajj, subhanAllah, it is surah that is, the ayat in it, it goes from some from Mecca, some from Medina, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And of course, Surah Al-Hajj talks about the fifth pillar in Islam. And if you notice in the Quran, we don't have surah about Tawheed. We don't have surah about Salah. We don't have surah Salah. We don't have surah Siyam. Siyam mentioned one time in the Quran. We don't have surah, it's called Surah Al-Zakah. We don't have Zakah. But we have one surah about the Hajj. And the Hajj, as we all know, was made fard obligatory all the way until the year 9 in Hijri. So 1 year before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or 1 year, 1 year and a half or so before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam passed away, and he made one Hajj only, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, the concept of Hajj, if you notice, and this is amazing, how does the surah start? It starts about the Day of Judgment. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم إن زلزلة الساعة شيء عظيم. O people, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The shaking, the earthquake of the end of time is huge, that the people, that their minds will go away, and even the one who is giving milk to its own baby will drop her baby. Even the pregnant women, they will drop their children, and the people will walk around there as if they are drunk, but they're not drunk. But the torture of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is huge. If you ever doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, think about the creation of Allah. Look at the earth, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, it is dead. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring the rain upon it, and everything green goes from it. Look at your creation, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you from a drop of liquid, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a man out of you, and some of us die early, and some of us die late in life, and some of us go to be really old. We don't even recognize what we're saying anymore from the age that we're in. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about the concept of, oneness, the concept of the Day of Judgment, including the Hajj. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks a very important concept, was not known before, and that was revealed through the surah. أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا. The very first ayah was revealed to allow the Muslims to defend themselves in the surah. And you can imagine the association between the Hajj, the badal, the work that you give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the trip for His sake, and you're standing there on this mountain on Arafah, and you make tawaf like the rest of, the whole creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You stand there with wearing nothing but your coffin. You are waiting as if you really are in the Day of Judgment, the same thing. And you stand there with no difference between tall and short, male and female. Everybody's just standing there for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You spend that effort, but that effort also associates with the jihad and the badal and the giving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for you to defend yourself. In Surah Al-Hajj. It's not a coincidence that the last ayah, and it has, some scholars different on this, it has one sajda in Surah Al-Hajj. Some of the scholars said, some of them, the majority of them said that has two sajda in it, two sujood in it. It's not a coincidence that the last sujood was revealed in the Quran is in the surah. And this is the ayah number 77. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ruk'u wasjudu wa'budu. I don't want to see the rest of the ayah, otherwise you're going to have to make sujood. This is the ayah number 77. It has sujood in it, as well as the beginning of the surah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the others ayah of Hajj. Surah Al-Hajj, is a great surah. Talks about the giving, talks about the association between this life and the life after, and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be embedded in our hearts, and for us to show the path in one direction towards that day. We're all heading that direction, brothers. Some wise person said that I only gained from today is one less day out of my life. That's all I gained. Tomorrow, the end of the day tomorrow, I'm going to have one less day of my life, and on and on. If you have a certain amount of days, which is we do have a certain amount of days we live, every day we spend that life, we're heading in that direction. Everybody. Nobody has ever escaped death. Nobody has ever escaped, being buried and dying away. And nobody will ever escape a judgment day, will be judged on the works of the work we have done. The only capital we have is our time here on the face of this earth. Let's work from that sake. Let's work from that side for us to make a better and a longer lasting ending for us, inshallah, in Jannat al-Firdaus, where inshallah we'll be in a better place. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the straightness in our deen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open up our hearts and minds. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us better